දැන් construction contracts දැකලා තියෙනවනේ. Hello.
The time and the quality and the cost.
Yes, excellent. Completion time, cost of the construction contract, quality of the work. Yes, agreed. Now tell me, according to the agreed time period, the contractor has not finished and delivered the house. Then what you can do? According to the construction contract, the project must complete and handed over to the employer or the client by the contractor on 1st June 2023, but he failed to deliver and handed it over 1st June. Then what are your precautions?
So now we have to check whether the causes of delay may be due to the faults of the consultant or the client side. If it is fair reason, we can give EOT extension of time considering the genuinity or the factors that they are.
Yeah, I agree. Most of the time they ask for a time extension. Even the time extension they have not handed over. So you have a variation clause. You must see the causes first, right? Fair and equitable. Number 2, risk allocated to party best place to control it, bear it, and deal with it. Third party, drafted by consulting engineers. Complete flexible. Range covers most needs, readily available, adaptable to fit requirements. Recognized, positive FIDIC image. Worldwide acceptance, FIDIC, worldwide acceptance. Tested, established, and successful. So remember, when you do, this is very important. Clear and coherent clauses. Explain. If you don't know, have a TOR. What is TOR? Hello? What is TOR? If you don't know,
term of references.
Excellent. Term of reference, then you know the meaning. Fair and equitable. The risk allocated to party best place to control it. Third party, drafted by consulting engineers. Complete flexible. Range covers most needs. Readily adaptable to fit requirements. Recognized. Positive FIDIC image. Worldwide acceptance. Tested. Established successful. What is FIDIC? Characteristic of FIDIC conditions of contract. That is the lesson today. Application prospect of FIDIC conditions of contract. New development of FIDIC conditions of contract. So all contracts, construction, we do not follow the UK system. They go with JCT. We go with FIDIC. So FIDIC means standard terms in a construction contract. Very detailed explanation is there in the books. In every contract, there are two types of terms. One you call conditions and one you call warranties. We have studied them. Conditions are the substantive part of the contract, which is base of the contract, which is foundation of the contract, which goes to the root of the contract, which is the heart of the contract. Conditions. If employer or contractor breach a condition, the innocent party can terminate the contract and claim for damages. Such powerful things. Warranties are subsidiaries in a construction contract. It does not go to the heart of the contract. It is not the foundation of the contract. So warranties are less important terms. But both are parties' consent. The parties must decide whether it's a condition or a warranty. That we are going to discuss. So what is FIDIC? Management is kind of science which needs continuous summarizing to experience development and innovation through practice. In the construction industry, innovations are very important. The Mulla Kandalama Hotel, green environment, no damage to the jungle, no damage to the Ibbankotua river bank. Everyone fun having there. And foreigners are going. That's why we need. So the hotel has built in such an environment, architect by famous architect, quantity survey, structural engineers, and before that they have done the soil test, all are there. In the contract of international engineering projects, now Sri Lanka we have international engineering projects. The functions of the conditions of a contract is of great importance, providing the rights, obligations, and responsibility of the parties concerned in the contract execution. Employer, contractor. Employer having his own consultants, then the employer liability. Then you have the contractor, his own consultants, you have to pay. So now it is very, very important in a construction contract, conditions are three. Rights of the parties. So rights of the contractor, rights of the employer. So it's very important document. It's a contract for engineering, international engineering projects. You must know the conditions. Then the rights of the parties, your entitlement, contractor and the employer. So your rights are very, very important. And the response and the obligation, you have to take and undertake an obligation. And then you have responsibility of the parties. Employers' responsibilities. Then the contractors' responsibility. So they are concerned much on this contract execution. When you are executing a contract, these terms are very important. Rights of the parties, obligation of the parties, and responsibility of the parties. So during the past half century, International Federation of Consulting Engineers. Now you know the full name. FIDIC means International Federation of Consulting Engineers, FIDIC. So, International Federation of Consulting Engineers means FIDIC contracts, has devoted itself to the compilation of management documents for all kinds of projects, Sri Lanka also, among which the FIDIC conditions of contract are of the highest influence and are the most popular application. So Sri Lanka contracts, ICTAT format, and when you are signing, most of these are FIDIC conditions, International Federation of Consulting Engineers. So Sri Lanka also thick blue, we are also following that. So representing more than 1 million professionals in 75 countries. You can see Australia, South Africa, some Central African countries. Then you have India, Nepal, Bangladesh, Pakistan, Sri Lanka, everyone covered. And you go to North America, Russia. No. So likewise, you can see the FIDIC conditions. So the first edition of FIDIC conditions of contract for works of civil engineering construction use the red book. So you can see starting the red book, but today you have green book and other books are there. The first edition of FIDIC conditions of contract for works of civil engineering construction use the red book was compiled in 1957, and later its second and third, fourth editions are there respectively 1963, 1977 and 1987 respectively. But these editions are most compiled in the reference of the related documents of Institution of Civil Engineers. So the FIDIC and European International Contracts, EIC, entrusted the University of Reading, one of the famous University of Reading, in 1966 to summarize the experience and to draw lessons from the application of the former documents. Now that matter has to be solved as early as possible. So the FIDIC and European International Contracts entrusted the University of Reading in 1966 to summarize the experience and draw lessons from the application of the former documents. So with the investigation of these governments, employers, contractors, and consulting engineers all over the world about the application of the Red Book 204 finding reports are there. So according to the findings, the FIDIC contract committee organized a group of experts to compile the new contract edition applied for 21st century. So the test edition of FIDIC of these models was published in 1998. The FIDIC solicited opinions throughout the world for additional time to publish the official text in 1999. Now, FIDIC condition of contract has been applied worldwide, especially in the projects invested by World Bank, Asia Development Bank, African Development Bank, all in. So the new models include, now the new models must come up, all models must, but you have to wait 5 years. FIDIC conditions of contract for construction, that is our lesson. New red book, if anyone haven't taken that. FIDIC conditions of contract for plant and design build. FIDIC, very important. So that is also you are rewarded. FIDIC conditions of contract for EPC Turkey projects, the silver book. So there is another one. FID short form of contract, green book. So green color is there, as well as yellow book. So FIDIC conditions of contract for EPC Turkey projects are there. FIDIC short of form of contract. FIDIC short form of contract. So FIDIC conditions of contract, the new edition raised a higher requirement to the parties concerned in the areas of contract management. Now these are the books. Very important. If you are in the construction industry, compile with that. Red book, construction of contract for construction. Sri Lanka we can take. Construction, plant and design plant take more time. Experts are very less in this. Epic, turnkey projects. It's another one where you are for. So short film of, you have a short form of contract. So these are the four. Have you even touched these type of books? Have you seen this book? Yes or no? It is in the ICTAD office. Hello.
Yes, sir.
Okay, that's very good. So you know what's inside. So we have red book, yellow book, blue book, and the green book. Based on your contract, all the conditions and terms there. Before a condition, it is a term. Otherwise, you write in your contract, corner side left, construction, contracts, and the law. Then they will give. The plant and design build another. There are 4 types: construction, plant and design, build, and epic. Now see, this is the lesson. Characteristic of FIDIC rules, conditions of contract. I told you condition is the most important one, which is the base of the contract. So, this unification of terms and clauses are very important. So the new edition was drafted as the new red book, the new yellow book, and the silver book by a work group under the leadership of the FIDIC Contracts Committee. The contract form was not influenced by the former ICE, Institute of Chartered Engineers, framework, which was included in all 20 clauses. So if the clause content could be unified, it would be under the same titles and expressions. In these 3 books, more than 80% of the content was accident. And it is very important, 85% of the definition and expressions were the same. So it is a great help for the users understand them completely, saving the study time. Wide application. What do you mean by wide application? Read and summarize this one somewhere. Wide application. What do you mean by wide application? Yes. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. 11 places are there, but 1 or 2 you can apply this. So when the new conditions contract drafted, FIDIC tried best so the conditions could be applied under not only customary law, that is Anglo-American law system, but also civil law. Now there are 3 legal systems in the world. One is common law, all the UK colonies, including Sri Lanka, India, and others. Then the opposite side, there are Gulf region, Holy Al-Quran there. And finally, for the areas they live, they are governed by English common law. So 3 legal systems are there. So FIDIC rules compile all these things, not only English common law. It is there, civil laws. Civil law means not the civil law what we are discussing, which is existing in France, Germany, Switzerland, Luxembourg, like countries you know. To pursue this, the contract working group had an attorney present in the review of the clauses so that they could be applied under the 2 laws noted above. The new edition also shows more flexibility and adaptability. For example, in the old edition, the conditional performance guarantee was necessary. So you must have a conditional performance guarantee. This is very much important. Okay. So the World Bank had different opinion, while in the new edition of the FIDIC, the guarantee form was set by particular conditions which can be applied, governing the employees' better flexibility. Applicability under various project delivery and contracting systems. So the new red book is there, the new yellow book is there, silver book, green book. You must have access to all the books if you are doing a research. Look in Sri Lanka only, you can't say anything. You have to comparatively see another. So third one, the silver book applies to the turnkey projects of infrastructures and also of large-scale factories, where the contractor takes on more work and risk while the employer's participation. In small private financing or government financing, it is strictly defined upon the investment of the construction projects, large scale. Although these 4 contract conditions can be applied to nearly every kind of project. That's why the question I gave it to you. Do you know what is a construction contract? Do you know the difference between civil and criminal? We are still there. So the green book can be used in all kind of a small scale projects. Everything done, but one part was not done. So expect for that of managing, constructing, or simply constructing designs. High quality provisions and logical close consequence. So you have to follow the new red book always, the new yellow book. If it is a foreign funded one, compulsory. So compared with the original red book, the new red book has 163 clauses, every clause. Have you studied this FIDIC rules for a construction contract? Yes or no? Hmm? 163 clauses are there, nearly 40% being freshly compiled. An additional 40% were modified and given supplements. Only 20% were kept. Intact. So the old edition adopted IC, Engineer of Civil Engineering, Chartered Institute of Civil Engineering. Disorderly style bit in the close experience. So it is very, very important consequence. So while in the new edition, the related sub-clauses are put into one clause when possible and convenient to do the users. Now, more specific provisions concerning the rights and obligations of the contract parties. What are the rights of the employer? What are the rights of the contractor? What are the liabilities of the employer? What are the liabilities of the contractor? 2 parties are there, contractor and the employer. So their rights and liabilities are decided. The law is not defined. The law is not designing. Who must design the parties? Come to a public discussion. So taking the clause of the employer's default as an example, we can see that in contrast to the red book. So 3 points are added into the new red book. Very important. So the new red book of 2 are concerned with payment. The above shows the strict requirements for the employer. However, the contractor shall be institute a quality assurance system, very important, QS. They know how to do the architectures. So monthly progress report, I showed you a monthly progress report now. To the engineering every month, otherwise the payment won't be given on time. So any kind of practice or insult in contractors default, all of the above are high requirements. Changes in preparing style. Now, when you are preparing a construction contract, there can be changes. There can be changes. So the general conditions in the form edition were fairly conscious. Some recommendable clauses are there were given particular conditions while in the new edition. So there is a way around the regulations, being that the general conditions are relatively comprehensive. For example, would be advance payment and adjustment. So the new edition writes, believe that it is a more convenient of the users rather than delete the clause they do. What is the language? Conscious language. Conscious language. What is the language you use? These are very important. Under what language you prepare, under what language you write. Yes, answers. What is the official language in Sri Lanka? What is the state languages? Single and 10, but most of the construction contracts are on other languages. So the language and sentence structures in the new editions are rather easy to understand. So the language and sentence structures easy. And a great help to the people whose native language is not English, then he will explain. Application prospects of FIDIC, conditions of the contract. So the traditional project management mode, they never go for that, which is universal in the world. So there has been applied in most of the engineering project management cases in the world. So the new edition has many advanced ideas. You have to buy and read this. And regulations such as standardizing the contract, one fit contract for, there can be variation, there can be different cases, but structure may be same. So strictest claim procedure and emphasize on the protection of intellectual property rights. To solve the problem of back payment using worldwide experience, for example, someone said, yes, front desk you give 800,000, or 200,000 you go off the hand. So it is reported that the back payment and debt between the engineering units in China have added up to 280 billion. So which is mostly employers default to the contract. So what will happen? So the problem has greatly influenced the construction corporation that their economic strengths were in. So the market needs a legal system we are discussing today to provide a guarantee-free and fair competition. Since the problem of the employer's financial vacancy or contractors' financing are originating worldwide, they are not recruiting under the new UGC, University Grant Commission Circular, we can't. We have to run with the system. So the relative clauses and regulations are added into the FIDIC conditions. Employers' financial agreement, very important. Sri Lanka, the employer will ask from the contractor, how is your financial creditworthiness? Excellent. We have a very good financial creditworthiness. Then they will say, bring the solvency test. Under Sri Lanka Law, Company Act Section 56, you have to do a test. What is this test? This test is called solvency test. If you pass the solvency test, they will grant the loan. Otherwise, so solvency test means total value of the assets is greater than total value of debts and total value of liabilities in a balance sheet. So you have to know that. So employer's financial arrangement, the employer shall submit within 28 days after receiving any request from the contract. Reasonable evidence that financial arrangement has been made. Then nothing. So if the employer intends to make any material means major change to his financial arrangement, then what will do? He shall give notice to the contractor with detailed particulars. With details, particulars. So if the employer fails to execute accordance with the clause, then what will happen? You said that. The contractor may, after giving a 21 days notice to the employer, now FIDIC rules say, he must pay on or before 31st March. Now 2 weeks gone, how we are going to collect? You can arrest them and put to jail. So if the employer fails to execute in accordance with this clause, the contractor may, after giving a 21 days notice to the employer, suspend the work of reduced production output as a kind of warning. So if the contractor does not receive any reasonable financial arrangement certificate, within 48 days after giving the warning, he shall be entitled to terminate the contract for its employer's default. Also, contractor can get all the compensation. Now you said the payment also. FIDIC also discussing the payment, what it say. I asked what are the most important three, then you name payment also. So what it say? If it is defined in the clause of payment, the date of payment, the method of payment, part payment, all these are have to handle the problem when the employer has payment delay, default payment by the employer to the client. He has breached the contract, construction contract. Continuously breach, they will put adjudication. If the contractor does not receive payment in accordance with the interim payment certificate, within 50 days after submitting monthly statement to the engineer, at the beginning of the month, the contractor shall be entitled to receive interest compounded monthly on the amount unpaid during the period of delay. So these financing changes shall be calculated at the annual rate of 3 percentage points above the discount rate of central bank of the country, of the currency. Contractor finance project execution. Employer has to pay, but the contractor will just put money or bank guarantee. So contractor finance project executions are there. It is specifically set up in particular conditions, and example provisions are there for the contract finance, which define that it is contractor financing and has committed to the project. So the employer shall deliver a bank payment guarantee to the contractor within 28 days after both parties have entered into the contract agreement. If the contractor does not receive the guarantee, the engineer shall not issue the notice to commence. It is defined that the guarantee that if the employer fails to make payment in full by the date 14 days of the expiry period specified in the contract, as within such payment should be made. So the system is there given. And also remember, the contractor shall be entitled to demand for payment from the bank with a certificate. How you paid. Contractor signature, which must be authenticated by his bankers or by notary public. Not a lawyer, notary public. So the carry out general contracting modes of design build, EPC. FIDIC makes out the new yellow book you can see and silver book independently in addition to the MIT, the development tendency of international project management. So according to the statistics for forecast of the American Design Build Institute, the market shares change tendency you can see from 1985 to 2050. So market shares change tendency, American main engineering construction mode. So this is in USA. So we have to see the other countries also, how the FIDIC is moving up. So to make clear the position of the construction supervising engineer raised their working responsibility and opened up new regions of work. So in the new Red Book, it needs the engineer to be a timeline and more explicit in solving the problems than before. So it pays more respect to the position and the authority of the engineer, such as without the consent of the contractor, the employer shall not be entitled to exchange the engineer impose further restrictions on this. Engineering authority includes what? Engineering authority, this is where you are getting the consultation. So making it clear that the engineer belongs to employer's person, where there is no stress that has been independent. When the engineering makes a decision, there will be no more stress or impartiality, but he is still required to be fair. So if the contractor and the employer have a heated dispute, then what will happen? There will be no need for the engineer to mediate before either party applies the arbitration if the dispute. So this any dispute arising between the employer and employee, you must send it to the arbitration. That is much important. So the dispute adjudication board, DAB, has been set up to solve the problem. So the mode of engineering supervising, it is also applied to the new yellow book, while the responsibility of the engineer are the same. So the whole with the said new red book, that is the engineering should manage not only the construction, but in the designing, including review and approving the disqualifications, design, sub-design, contractor document. So you have to participate in discussion, design and constructing. Contractor to prepare further documents, but any engineer's review, approval or consent, the contractor's document shall not relieve the contractor's responsibility. To prepare the model of short form contract. So we'll have a 10 minutes break and tea break and come back once again. Any question you can ask after that. Huh? All right. So now we'll continue from there. Now we are discussing in a construction contract under FIDIC rules, what are the conditions? So to prepare the model of short form contract, many small scale and large scale projects can use simple techniques, such as in residential areas also need a contract. So big or small, when you are going for a construction contract, number one, you need a contract in writing. You need a contract in writing. So we shall comply a short form contract in reference to FIDIC Green Book. So it is necessary to be fairly flexible in the mode of requirements of management. How to improve the mediation method for dispute? That is, if any dispute arising out of this construction contract, what you do? The new edition takes experience of USA and World Bank in solving construction dispute. Construction dispute, before arising, you must prevent. That strategy you have to develop. If a dispute arises, work stoppage immediately and you are not going forward with that. So the new edition takes the experience of USA and World Bank in solving the construction dispute. So which result dispute settlement board and to mediate the dispute. The most outstanding merit of DAB is that it is composed with 3 experts. I told you adjudication in Sri Lanka. He can be a civil engineer, chartered surveyor, chartered accountant like that. So they are not lawyers. So it is the best. So the most outstanding DAB is that it is composed of 3 experts which are chosen, approved and paid for both parties. When you are selecting 3 divers. 1 from QS expert, 1 from engineering expert, 1 of legal expert. So all these take together. So these experts go to site to solve the dispute occurring between the 2 parties after commencing the construction work. Then the FIDIC Red Book, the engineering is required to mediate the problem which cannot handle. So it is hard to be impartial because the engineering is the employer's employee. So very often the contradiction will still be unsolved after a long time period. So now you have new development of FIDIC conditions of contract. Design, build, operate contract, which was published in September 2007 Gold. So the new DBO document for long-term contract background, the DBO approach to contracting combines design, construction, and long-term operation and maintenance of the facility into one single contract, awarded to a single contract who will usually be a joint venture consortium, representing all the disciplines and skills called in the DBO arrangement, public-private partnership. What are the advantages? Time, financial, quality. What do you mean by time? With possibilities to overlap some design and build activities, it will be possible to minimize delays and optimize the smooth flow of construction activities. Then financial, with cost restraints and commitments and other risks being carried by the contract. So there is less risk of price overruns. Quality, with the contractor responsible for 20 years operation, he has interest to design and build. Quality plant with low operation and maintenance costs. Not only will the benefit fit for the purpose. So basically the success of true DPO contract depends on the commitment of the contract to the competent project. And the best way to do is to cover the whole design, build, and the operation elements in a single contract. That is why FIDIC choose a single term performance security with a substantial reduction in value on completion of the design build, but with an ongoing commitment by the contract to complete the operation service. So the format of DBO arrangement can be based on either greenfield scenario or brownfield scenario, or either quite common. However, the contractual requirements are there. So FIDIC has chosen to produce a document based on the DBO greenfield scenario with the guide, which will publish in containing guidance to the change necessary for the field arrangement. Other important factor dispute resolution in document is the length of the operation period, since the condition suitable of long-term operation and not necessarily suitable for a short-term operation. From the experience of the DBO members, it was decided that most useful period of consider 20 years operation, again giving guidelines. Risk control DBO contract. What do you mean by risk control? DBA can be viewed as a complete method in PPS. This method is a long-term process, including procurement, construction, operation, and transfer. High risk should be paid the most attention. So procurement, that is the tender processing, selecting the best tender out of all, and then you start the construction, you sign the construction contract, then operation starts. So about PPS, a wide spectrum of options is available for the delivery of public infrastructure and service, ranging from direct provision by the government to outright privatization, with increasing responsibility, risk, commitment, and reward transferred from the government to the private sector. Now you take an example for supply and service contract. So what is a supply and service contract? These usually have a short duration, supply and service. So in this contract, the private contractor performs specified tasks. What are they? Material supply, equipment supply, works construction, facilities maintenance. They do all this, whereas it is not directly responsible for providing related service. So in a lease and operate contracts, the private contract operates and maintains the facility its own risk against the payment of a lease fee. So in a build, operate, transfer, BOT project, so the private contractor is also responsible for the building and financing the project. And it has to transfer project facilities in operational conditions and free of cost to the government and ends of concession terms. So the ownership of the existing assets and responsibilities of future expansion and upkeep are transferred for the private contractor in all. So you can see the whole process of PPP, DBO project, and key issues should in following. Now see, lots of risks have been identified. What are these risks? So lots of risks identified. And how to minimize that? Now take Sri Lanka and tell me. Risk, meta level, macro level. Political and government policies. Unstable government, expropriation of nationalization of assets, poor public decision making, macroeconomics, poor financial market, inflation rare volatility, interest rate volatility, legal, legislation change of tax regulations, social, lack of traditional or private provision of public service, level of public opposition to project, natural, force majeure, impossibility of performance, geotechnical conditions, weather and environment. Now I am asking, giving this and asking you, how Sri Lanka situation in this? Risk identification in a construction contracts. What are your opinions one by one? Okay, 5 minutes you think, and I name, you have to explain this. If any problem, please ask first. No problem, then go through this. Right. Now, give me analysis. Sri Lanka. Anurad, in the construction industry, what type of risks available in Sri Lanka? So I have given the risk factor and also category group. Now you can explain in the construction industry by each category what type of a risk is there. Anuradha.
Sir, in risk factors, we can identify in natural.
No, you have to take one by one.
Okay, sir.
Now you are a Sri Lankan, you are staying in Sri Lanka. If I give a question in the exam, I will give you the risk meta level. Then the risk factor category groups I have given and the risk factor. Each you take Sri Lanka political and government policy. And under that, few points are there. Then macroeconomy few points, legal few points, social few points, and natural, and give you analysis. Yes. Now I'll give an example, construction of a housing complex. Housing complex for government officers in Sri Lanka within 1 acre. Now, you are a contractor and you have to explain because of these risks, we need insurance or something like that. So you have to explain the risk category group, risk factor, and you have to make a recommendation for me. Okay, start.
Okay, sir. In political and government policy risk factor in housing project we start, but after that we in unstable government situation like government in last.
Now I am asking, is Sri Lanka unstable government? Yes or no? You give your opinion, no problem. Is Sri Lanka having an unstable government? Yes or no?
Yes, sir.
Yes. Why you say yes?
In
Yes කියලා නිකන් ඉන්න බෑ නේ. ඒකට උත්තරයක් දෙන්න.
there as economic crisis and political.
Economic crisis එකක් නෙමෙයි මෙයා මං අහන්නේ unstable government එකක් ගැන අහන්නේ. ඇයි unstable government කියලා කියන්නේ? economic crisis වලට යන්නේ. ඇයි ලංකාවේ unstable government එකක් කියලා කියන්නේ? හේතුව මොකක්ද? කොහොමද කතා කරන්න බෑනේ. ආන්නේ කොහොමද? Economic risk එකක් නෙමෙයි unstable government. Is there an unstable government in Sri Lanka? You said yes. Then I asked, explain why you say unstable government. ඇයි එහෙම කියන්නේ? ලංකාවේ නෙමෙයිද? හරි සිංහලෙන් උත්තර දෙන්නකෝ. දැන් ඔයාව කොන්ත්‍රාත්තුවක් අපි වාට බාර දෙන්න. මේකේ පළවෙනි එක තමයි දේශපාලන සහ ආණ්ඩුවේ ප්‍රතිපත්තිය. අපි කියනවා අස්ථාවර ආණ්ඩුවක් තියෙනවා. ඔයා කිව්වා ඔව් පිළිගන්නවා. ඇයි ඔය අස්ථාවර ආණ්ඩුවක් කියලා කියන්නේ? සිංහලෙන් කියන්නකෝ ඉංග්‍රීසියෙන් බැරි.
ඒක සර් ඒ කියන්නේ ආණ්ඩුවේ ප්‍රතිපත්ති මාලාවන්
පුතා ප්‍රතිපත්ති ගැන නෙමෙයි කතා කරන්නේ. මේක අන්ස්ටේබල් කියන්නේ ඇයි? දැන් මේ ඊයේ පෙරේ දුන සිදුවීම් වල කියන්න බැරිද මොකක්ද උනේ කියලා? ඔය ලංකාවේ නෙමෙයි ඉන්නේ. දැන් මොකද ඊයේ පෙරේද ලංකාවේ උනේ? ඔය ලංකාවේ නෙමෙයි ඉන්නේ. ආ සිංහලෙන් කියන්නකෝ අර ඉංග්‍රීසි අතහැරලා දාන්නකෝ ඔයගොල්ලෝ. හරි අමාරුනේ පාඩම මොකක්ද? ජනාධිපති කෙනෙක් අයින් වුනේ නැද්ද? අයින් වුණාට පස්සේ මොකද්ද උනේ?
දේශපාලන අස්ථාවරත්වයක් ඇති වුණා රටේ.
ඔය අස්ථාවරත්වයක් ඇති වුණේ හරි කොහොමද අස්ථාවරත්වයක් ඇති වුණේ කියලා අනේ. අයියෝ උත්තර දෙන්නකෝ මෙයා බබ්බු වගේ. ඔයගොල්ලෝ මේ වැඩිහිටි ජනතාවනේ. මේවට උත්තර දෙන්න පුළුවන් නේ. ලංකාවේ නෙමෙයි තියෙන්නේ. ඇයි අන්ස්ටේබල් ගවර්නමන්ට්? මම කියන එක නෙමෙයි මේක කියන්නේ මේ කෙලින්ම ෆිඩික් රූල්ස් වල. එතකොට ඔයගොල්ලෝ උත්තර දෙන්න බෑ. ඇයි අස්ථාවරයි කියන්නේ?
So the administrative setup in the country is
ඇඩ්මිනිස්ට්‍රේටිව් නෙමෙයි පාර්ලිමේන්තු එක ගැන අපි කතා කරන්නේ.
So the elected president
කියන්නේ මල්ලේ
is not
පොඩ්ඩේ.
anymore.
හා?
So the elected president is not
අන්න
anymore.
ඒකනේ
Now currently, temporary
ඒකයි.
president is there, and in future we might have a presidential election. So it's an unstable
නෑ
government.
ප්‍රෙසිඩන්ට් ඉලෙක්ෂන් එක හරි ඒක පස්සට දාන්නකො. කෙටියෙන් විස්තර කරන්න දෙපේනේ. අන්ස්ටේබල් කියන්නේ කියලා. ප්‍රෙසිඩන්ට් ගේ පාර්ටි එකට තමයි වැඩිපුර සීට්ස් තිබ්බේ. දැන් ප්‍රෙසිඩන්ට් කෙනෙක් නෑ ඒ පාර්ටි. වෙන එක්කෙනෙක් පත් කළා තියෙන්නේ. කැබිනට් එකට අස්ථාවරයි. ඒ වගේ කතා කරන්න දෙපේනේ. අස්ථාවරයි කොයිද ඉන්නේ කියලා. right number 2. ඉතින් කියන්නේ ඒක. Expropriation of nationalization of assets. දැන් ඔක්කොම ලාභ ලබන ඒවත් මේ කෙලින්ම ප්‍රයිවටයිස් කරනවා. නේ මන්ද කොයි රටේද ඔයගොල්ලෝ ඉන්නේ? Poor public decision making process, yes or no?
yes.
ඇයි එම් yes කියලා බෑ. ඇයි එම් කියන්නේ? Why you say yes?
Now, so the majority represent the public. Now, so public opinion is not taken in the government decision making factor as the cabinet and everywhere. So always the unfair thing.
No election නේ. No election නේ. ඔයගොල්ලෝ මොන රටේද ඉන්නේ? Provincial council elections නෑ. පළාත් පාලන ආයතන election නෑ. කල් ගිහිල්ලා. ඉතින් ඒකෙන් වෙන්නේ මොකද්ද? හා හරි අමාරුයි නේ
Public decision එක ඉතින් make කරන්න බෑ සර්.
ඒක තමයි කියන්නේ poor public decision making නේ. මිනිස්සු නෑනේ. ජනතා නියෝජිත නැත්තම් කොහමද යන්නේ? ඊළඟ එක strong political opposition hostility. Political opposition එකක් තියනවද ලංකාවේ?
තියෙනවා but not strong
එහෙම
sir.
කියන්නේ ඒක කියන්නේ. right macro economy. Poor financial market. Stock market එක කොහමද? How is Sri Lanka stock market?
We can manipulate the any way we want, so therefore it's there, but it's also not steady.
Inflation rate volatility. උද්දමනේ මොකද කියන්නේ?
Affirmative, that is all right, so yes.
Interest rate ඔන්න දඩස් ගාලා පල්ලෙහාට වැටිලා නේද දැන්?
Mm.
හුංගාල වැඩ නැහැ ඉතින් කියන්නේ. Influential economic events. මොනවද දැන් economic events තියෙන්නේ අපි?
Selling the state properties and lands and buildings, everything to the other countries.
Legal. Legislation changes තියෙනවද? ගොඩාක් එනවනේ legislation changes. ඒක
Yes,
විස්තර
yes.
කරන්න. And මේක නම් කීට හැකි. Changes in tax regulation. Okay, tell me what happened in changes in tax regulation.
If you been a IESL member, you have to open a tax file. And if you are
IESL
earning
නෙමෙයි
more,
ඔක්කොමලා. Lawyers.
all the professionals, yes.
Engineer.
Now,
ඔය තියෙන්නේ කියන්නේ ඉතින්.
oh,
Anyone earning more than 100,000 and per annually 12 lakhs, they have to pay what? What they have to
Income
pay? ලක්ෂ 13 කෙනෙක් කොච්චර ගෙවන්න ඕනේ income tax එක? අයියෝ. If you are earning 15 lakhs for month, how much you have to pay the income tax? ගෙවන්න ඕනේද නැද්ද?
you are known.
ඉතින් කියන්නේ ඒවා.
Still, they are formulating the rules. No, so
What?
still formulating the.
Yeah, but they are actually working at the moment. Industrial regulatory change. What about labor laws? What about other laws?
Change in volatile.
Doing a project management is not a single one. You have to go through all these things. Lazy in project management. Social. Lack of traditional private provision of public services. Level of public opposition to project. Government has no money. Most of the construction not paid. කතා කරන්නේ. Force majeure. Tsunami, thundering, volcano, more geotechnical conditions, weather. Bad weather is there or good weather. Environment. So very high risk in a project. So please remember that. These construction projects, what type of a risk? Then more project selection, land acquisition. The laws are there. LRC land, what type of a land, project finance, level of demand for project, availability of finance, residual risk, design, construction cost overrun, years, very high cost. So if question on project management on this, you have to analyze and tell. Construction time delay, years. Not a single construction delivered on time because of various delays they explain. Material, labor availability. Laborers are not there on that. Late design changes, poor quality of workmanship. I am not answering the questions. You have to answer in the exam. I have given the list. You are practical people. Here, all these are in the field. So why can't you look and tell me? Look this. How many type of risk you have?
So they are the what is meso, the micro, micro and meso, the middle ones.
Which one?
Now we can see the micro level. Top we saw the this one, sir. Meso
Yeah,
level.
these are all basically coming under meso. We know micro and macro. In that you have meso level risk. Meso level means basically it is coming under project issues, finance. Then if you have no idea, read the third column. Those are coming under meso level risk. Land acquisition, level of demand for project, availability of finance, financial attraction, finance. And then you have micro level risk, relationship, organization and coordination, inadequacy experience, inadequate distribution, third party. Therefore, you must see all these things before you come for a contract under FIDIC. So the structure of the employer and contractor DBO, employer, his representative, they contact with the contractor. Employer requirements are there, contract data, representative and administration of the contract, contractor design, execute, complete, remedy defects. And then you have employer representative contractor, design planning, design construction, operation maintenance, dispute adjudication board, and finally, you need a new document format. The ඔගොල්ලෝ innovatively මේක හිතන්න ඕනේ. So the format of a new document follows traditional format layout of previous FIDIC document. So you have to see with 20 clauses and where appropriate the same terminology definition you use. Document will have general conditions, particular conditions, flow charts, all these things, sample forms, just like the other FIDIC document and guide, which will include amongst other things, guidelines on how to change the clauses, if it is required to have document for a brown field situation or an operation period. So this is the area where you should know. So you have to be very careful when you are entering into a contract, construction contract. Two type of risks are there, macro level and micro level. These you have to analyze when you give a question. Now you can ask question from, yes, start. Any questions you can ask.
So now, hello?
Yeah, go ahead.
Now, so the risk level and the risk group category, risk factor, everything is documented very well. Now, the count action expected, that can be expected from the point of the contractor and not the point of consultant, no, the client, maybe three parties, but it is beyond the control of them, whereas the government interference come into play. So, what are the set regulation to overcome these three parties?
No, what do you mean by government restrictions? I cannot understand.
Now we'll say
Government
now
interference means what?
now, so the we'll say steel prices all of a sudden gone up now.
But it is there in the variation clause. Do you have a variation? Yes, variation clause is there.
Now, so in that government protocols, now if something goes beyond the unfair way, is there any closer to fight or to take some, payment or any kind of a thing from the government side? Sir? Now, we'll say if we are taking a government project, beyond the control of the contractor and the consultant, maybe the government project ownership employee from the government side will say now implementing the regulation from the government side.
What type of regulation you are talking?
We'll say that we'll say now this tax now they have documented very well in the BOQ that tax everything. Now all of a sudden, if the tax implication come into play for the subsequent part of the contract, where they will not go.
They are indirectly coming to the contract. Yes.
Indirectly.
If anything happen with the tax issue, they are indirectly coming as implied terms to the contract.
Will the contract able to get that the variation of, will say, if rise really, can the contractor claim based on the government implication of the tax and in favor of the contract? Can no?
Not in favor. If anything happen, which is basically coming as a result of legal changes, regulation changes, yes. Both parties are not responsible. Beyond the party is king. So the contractor can claim from the party, that is the employer. Yes, it is there. So from that date, it is coming into force. There are certain issues like that. Not only tax, inflation rates are also there, and the exchange rates, it's another problem.
Now, so there's another thing. Now, if the company runs and
Hmm.
the company bankrupted and the
Insolvent, okay. Right. Yes, go ahead.
management has changed and nobody there to customers, those who have benefits. So still,
Now, if a company insolvent,
can customer claim from somebody if the
no,
company is
you
not
have
there?
to go for the winding up process.
Mm.
Royal Engineering Private Limited, construction company. Royal Engineering Private Company bankrupted. They had taken money from various clients, so various employers to build houses, halfway done. And thereafter, most of them went and complained in the fraud bureau also. But the fraud bureau didn't go ahead because those are construction contracts. And therefore, they said go for a civil case. But before that, the company bankrupt, company insolvent. All these assets and liabilities, what happened is not sufficient to pay the liabilities. So it's very, very rarely others are getting a, chance to go ahead with these contracts. So board of directors, when they declare insolvency, if they cannot pay, they have to pay. If they have done frauds, the company personally liable, lifting the veil of incorporation. So in these cases where finally what will happen, they may not get whatever they have actually spent for it. So you have to bear the cost. So insolvency process, finally, if nothing is happened, the jail sentence is coming up if they have not paid that. That is the issue basically coming up.
Mm.
That is practical one I gave the example of Royal Engineering Private Limited. Lot of companies nowadays they go bankrupt. They declare bankruptcy. So whatever they remain only, they have to pay and escape. Any other question? Okay, I will send these slides. If no question, we'll meet next week. Thank you very much.
So excuse me, sir.
Yeah, go ahead, please.
When this slide are sending a really small request, sir. Now, if you put background dark colors when we are taking the, printouts,
Yeah,
so
yeah.
many toners will be wasted.
Yes. What can I do? You have to pay a lot. I can understand. So plain black color you need, no? Yes.
Yes, just text enough.
Yeah, otherwise it is very costly. I can understand. Can we convert this color to black and white? Can?
The PDF, if you have the soft copy, sir, can.
I don't
This
have
is
the soft
PDF
copy.
presentation format.
I don't have the soft copy, no. That is the issue. What shall we do then? Yeah, I know you can't spend money for this. No, toner will costly and toner will go quickly.
Yes.
We have to decide something because I don't have that black and white. Some I have, some I don't have. If I can send the PDF or if I can send the Word document, some Word documents are there, some are not there. So you have to see this and write your own notes there.
Okay, sir, we will.
Yeah, these some are Not basically, we are in a group of lecturers, we prepare the notes. That's why we are sending it to you. I will try something for that. Anyway, I will send it to you. Any other question? Hello?
Yes, sir. Thank you, sir.
Okay, next week we'll meet. Thanks.